What's up, creative community? Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Open Class Doodles, episode number 7 here on the COACHMC studio. Tactical doodles for success, not only in the acting craft, but also in every other storytelling craft and other, creative endeavor that you have in mind. These tactical doodles, they are for, as well as for actors, they are also for business people, for communicators, everybody who kind of, you know, searching for a new, like, different product, something unique, something compelling. And with these tactical doodles, I like to take you back to my research or to actual stuff that I'm working on, and kind of displaying it visually, like making it as granular and as visual as possible, and as easy to understand as possible. And today I couldn't be more pumped about today's episode, actually, because Open Class Doodles episode number 7 is probably my favorite video that I get ever to shoot in my life. From all the 200 plus videos that we have on our beautiful channel, this is probably one of my favorite ones. Also because of the very special guest that we have today. Because in today's episode, we're going to dive into the magical, mystical, beautiful, sensational, timeless world of Greek mythology of the First Age. Because in Greek mythology, we have so many patterns, so many metaphors, so many interesting and beautiful, timeless stories, unique pieces of literature, and also a lot of stuff that, philosophically and morally kind of makes us reflect on ourselves. That's why you find Greek mythology pretty much everywhere. You find it in fashion, you find it in music, you find it in the entertainment industry, you find it in all sorts of tales and stories. So without any further ado, I would like to welcome you to this very exciting episode number 7 of the Open Class Doodles, today with my man, Dragon Slayer Commentaries from the world famous Saturday Night Hypnosis panel. So without any further ado, let's jump right into it and let's see what's cooking. The man, the myth, the legend. Without any further ado, let's bring him forward. Let's give a big round of applause to my special guest tonight. I couldn't, pick any better suited for this endeavor, because he's a geek like me. He's very knowledgeable, very history savvy, and a great monologue-driven speech pattern, crazy, old ancient cousin of Smaug and all the other dragons. And so therefore, he knows more than we humans can possibly comprehend. Welcome to the show, Dragon Slayer Commentaries. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. Like I said earlier, I'm ready. I'm ready to dive into the Greek myth.
Nice.
All right. And you know what, chat? You're in for a treat. We both love Greek mythology, and
yes.
you're going to learn a lot. And maybe some laughs too along the way.
Oh yeah, we always try to deliver also, of course, some entertainment. This is how we are, right? We are just ridiculous beings, and that's why this is how everything starts. We need some beautiful fun and humor and chaos also in our lives. And before we jump into the nitty-gritty of today's episode, also a big shout out to the Facebook community, to the Instagram community watching us right now. You're more than welcome to come over to our YouTube channel over here and leave a like. Thank you so much also TD for stopping by. And it's a great opportunity because, like I said, I mean, we talked about this so much also on Saturday Night Hypnosis, right? Where we actually we aim to be also, in a way, positive gatekeepers of the good mythology, of the great stories. We fight for that, right? We and our audience sits of power knows exactly what we're up for. We're talking about fighting, right? We really love to kind of defend these values. And why is it that Greek mythology, those old and ancient stories, why do they fascinate us so much?
Oh man, well, for me personally, it's because of the fact that whether you believe the stories are a real or myth, it's the fact that real human beings developed an entire culture and civilization around these stories, and it gave them this groundwork of stability that allowed them to improve themselves as individuals and then as a society. And it gave birth to legends that, to be honest, they inspire people even to this day. They inspire them to be better versions of themselves, to look out for the negative things that could affect them because they affected those heroes. And
Mhm.
overall, they've even been good in inspiring some other great stories, especially, works like Lord of the Rings, The Silmarillion, The Hobbit, and even other like just Greek mythology movies, TV shows, you name it. It's all
Yeah.
over the place. The inspirations are there. And that's why
Yes.
I find it so fascinating, because such a core of Western civilization, because its roots go back even further. But
Yes.
this is
Absolutely.
sort of like the starting point that everyone's very comfortable with, because it's very well known, because there were a lot of people around this time that kept these legends going somehow, and it's amazing that they did.
Isn't that incredible? I mean, of course, now we
Yes.
can't really. I mean, it's like orally like transported traditions. Of course, also written down traditions. But generally, I'm from the Mediterranean, and I can tell you, like growing up in Sicily, of course, where you have a lot of monuments. But it's not the monuments; it's really the people when they're talking about this Lord. They really believe somehow in these metaphysical characters. They still talk in
Mhm.
awe about them. And when they look up to the volcano, to Etna, they find all sorts of metaphors even today, like what this big fiery mountain actually represents, right? It could be a
Mhm.
big brother, a benevolent father. They always kind of try to physicalize something that is actually ethereal and non-physical, and that's how beautiful
Mhm.
human brains can think, right? We transform everything into matter, we bring it into existence, into fruition. And that's why, like you said, these stories will never die, they will be eternal. You can find the echoes of these metaphors of Greek mythology. You can find them pretty much in every Hollywood movie, not in the last 25 years, because they are void of any clear substance. We know that by now. But from back in the days when movies were still movies, and there was a hero's journey, there was a hero, there was
Yeah.
something to conquer, right?
Mhm.
You know exactly what I mean. So we have these stories.
Mhm.
Even like I said also in my Instagram post today, to kind of to lead up to this video, like look at
Mhm.
fashion. They're all like, what is Versace? It's the Medusa, right? We have fashion brands that actually
Yeah.
called or Deus, or it's always coming back to these old ancient principles in a way, which is really
Mhm.
funny.
Let's be honest, people just like togas. People like robes. They don't want to admit it, but they like robes. They're
When-
comfortable.
Robes and rods, right? They give us some sort of
Yeah.
like, it
Mhm.
has some majesty and sovereignty, right? We hold
Yeah.
something. We finally we have status. We're not walking around like hobos today in the cities, right? We're like,
Yeah.
okay, I have functional wear on that doesn't get dirty, or it's water
Mhm.
repellent or whatever. No, back in the days it was about shining, about beauty. I mean,
Mhm.
Alexander the Great was famous that he was wearing always the most shiniest like armor, right? The shiniest, most
Yeah.
glorifying armor. So people could even spot him from a mile away, right? And that was like his
Mhm.
tactic, to act as a bait, but also to show his enemies, I'm not afraid of you. I'm the
Yeah.
shiniest here, right? Look at me, right?
Yes, sir. No, that's always been a thing that's reverberated across humanity. But like with the Greeks, like you said, like they always have this. The ancient Greeks, at least, they had this desire to always be the very best. Now, some achieved that
Mhm.
honestly, and others
Yeah,
obviously didn't. But
right.
we have to admit that the main reason why they even became so inspired to do so is because they would hear these legends of these gods and demigods, just that they were able to achieve these great things, and then these very same puny mortals are like, hey, I want to even achieve a shred of that, and they did it,
Yes, yes, of
and
course.
more probably. Now that I think about
Yeah,
it.
more. Yes, absolutely. This is why if you have big aspirations, big ambitions, because you have big idols, big footsteps to fill in, right? This gives you the motivation to continuously push. And by the way, Jay, the Gooch is is
Hey,
is a guest
Gooch.
here today. Gooch, hey man, it's great to have you
Yes.
here. Um,
Oh my goodness.
TD is saying two of my favorite childhood shows are Hercules and Xena. Not completely sure if it's always 100% accurate to actual Greek mythology, but I still think of them as great shows. They truly are. I mean, what
They
is
are.
100% accurate? I mean, even the writings that we have today
Mhm.
about Greek mythology, they are not from the 8th century BC, unfortunately. They're
Yeah.
way older transcriptions. And there
Mhm.
is also, in
That's
my
how it works,
opinion, a
though.
very right. Yes, yes. There's but also this unsettling detail that I kind of perceive that you won't find any
Ooh.
manuscripts that are older than the 8th century AD. They all
At least in
claim
the yeah.
yeah, not in our official records that you can like get access to.
Mhm.
Yeah, the Vatican and London Museum, some the French government, they also claim no, we have older manuscripts, we have the originals, but never actually somebody has seen them. Everything that we have is starting from the 8th, and from the 8th is very rare. Actually, the biggest bulk, like where it really starts to get substantial in terms of old manuscripts, it's 11th century, 12th century. As crazy as that sounds.
I mean, it doesn't surprise me considering
Hmm.
that uh, most of the older um, manuscripts, if they even if they were stored there, they were situated in the Library of Alexandria, and then when the library burned down, those works before it burned down,
Right.
the works were stolen, but then they were
Yeah.
scattered, and
Yeah.
then we have this situation at that point where it's like, okay, well, let's go with the hypothesis that all the original manuscripts were stolen, all right, or they were taken by the Romans
Yes.
and then just distributed as loot. Nobody cared for them, okay, or they were kept in a library somewhere. If we go
Right.
by that basis, just think about the passage of time for at least 2,000 years. Either those works are buried under some
Mhm.
rubble,
Mhm.
still preserved under a chest or something, or they were taken by someone from a secret society, whatever you want to think of it, normal
Right.
people, whatever, and they
Right.
kept it under lock and key. Or in those rare cases, they have truly been lost forever because of some natural catastrophe. It does happen, but it's not a lot.
Absolutely.
Most of the time, they've
Not
just been hidden or buried.
yes.
And
Yes,
so,
and think about an advanced society that wants to leave a legacy in terms of scripture or whatever behind, so people could follow some immortal values, so they would have a flourishing, prosper, and also healthy society. Don't you think that that type of civilization would leave the records in another form than just papyrus or anything that can be
oh
rubbed
yeah,
and burned away? Like
I mean,
we right. No, no, go
you
ahead, go
can
ahead.
no, you could think about it like if it, there was one hypothesis that was presented by well, these
Mhm.
days they call people that think like us alternative theorists, I believe, or no,
Yes.
alternative historians or researchers. They like to use the
Right.
word alternative because it's not mean, like it's not tinfoil hat crazy bastard, but it's also not you're a true scholar. It's not that.
Right.
It's like in between,
In between,
in
between
between.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, they say I heard this hypothesis that supposedly if there was an ancient civilization that existed a long time ago that maybe was as advanced as us or more advanced, then they must have dealt with, based off whatever records we have left and the way their structures are designed, that they must have dealt with sound manipulating technology,
Yes.
using the
Right.
sound using sound frequency to alter the waves in order to lift extremely large objects that would not have been able to have been carried otherwise. Using maybe certain type of equipment or vehicles that amplified that signal, then and it's all under the concept of manipulating just the general like electromagnetic energies that are naturally present on the earth and manipulating their
Yes.
frequency and usually amplifying it to 10, 20, even thousands of times in order to get energy out of them or to get something done.
Yeah,
If we think about the hypothesis, it's possible that they did exist. And what better way to store data than, and I know it's going to sound crazy, but Superman proved this, and scientists also, old Superman anyway, proved this. And also, scientists have proven it through a research that crystals can actually contain uh,
yes.
thousands of terabytes of data. However, we don't have the technology to use them to use it in a way that we can just store everything in a single crystal. But they have said that it is possible whenever we get the technology to do it. And we use
Um,
types of quartz crystal in our technology for storage as well. So
really,
it's not far fetched.
absolutely. No, it's not far-fetched. And never forget, we have two bases of operation. We have the civilian base of operation, where, the military industrial
Mhm.
complex dumps the old inventions that they already had like stored for 50 years that they don't need anymore, that they can now finally disclose. They dump it on us. Oh, look what we found. It's an incredible breakthrough. Run to the stores and pay a lot of money for that, while they're already using advanced
What
gadgets
can be
like
monetized?
right, what is not allowed to be monetized. So yeah, for sure, I believe we already have crystals that can store this type of amount of information. And yeah, we have also the very fascinating account of the crystal skulls that some claim kind of emanate some sort of an energy wave, that in a way the rhythmical pattern of that wave could be also intended as some sort of like, as if there is a coding, as if there is like an information that gets sent out the whole
Mhm.
time. And if you would be able to capture that information and translate it and make it like visible, then probably you would have like enormous
Mhm.
power, enormous access to it, like infinite amount of folders of information from the ancient times. And
No,
I
but
see already like no, go
uh
ahead, I'm sorry.
no. Go on, go on. I'll go after you. And yes,
uh,
this is
And
sad.
yes, yes. And we can go on, like, guys, we can like could go on with like, we should maybe do like a marathon, like a weekend of 24 hours where we dive into alternative research,
Yeah.
alternative history. But today, also to kind of give a little context, the legendary Dragon Slayer commentaries already declared himself as a victim of this beautiful topic and subject. And so today we're just going to start with the first age of the gods and the primordial beings, and how everything came into fruition, how existence came into fruition according to Homer and other sources of the Greek mythology. But then we would, like, theoretically, we would have still two big chapters ahead. Like, after the first age of the gods, we would have the age of the heroes, and then we would have the age of the big adventures and
Mhm.
incredible wars that raged between the Greeks and the Persians and everybody else, where
Mhm.
we have and Turks and many beautiful stories, like the Battle of Troy, like the
Mhm.
Odyssey of Ulysses. So theoretically, we have a lot of beautiful stuff that we can, kind of analyze in the next upcoming months. Today, we're gonna jump into the
Wait,
beginning of
question
everything.
before you begin. I do want to ask something because I just
Sure.
remembered. So, I mean, technically, what we're covering, because I think there's like 4 ages, right? Before
Right.
the age of man as we know it, according to the ancient Greeks, right? So there, I know there's the golden and silver age, which is basically what we're covering, but mostly on the golden, maybe hitting on the silver, which is like mostly age of the gods, and
We
the
have
gods trying to bring everything into order. But then
right.
afterwards, it's like the age of, what is it? Age of
We have bronze
bronze or
after the
iron?
golden age. Yeah, we
Yeah,
have
and then
bronze after
the
the
age of
golden
heroes,
age.
right?
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly. So
but
it's
the bronze, yeah, bronze and
go ahead.
heroes though merge anyway, so it's actually pretty convenient.
It is very convenient because we have a lot of stuff that kind of also repeats itself, and so we can just take it also from a previous age, and then it kind of merges. Also, we will see that today the Titans mingled in till the creation of man, and it's very interesting how all these different layers of power and authority in Greek mythology kind of always resurfaced, and then we're kind of pushed down again. And it's, you learn so much about politics, about in intrigues, about, right, how people were sided and how they were convinced to side one god or the other, and kind of for their own interest or for the interest of the people that they were representing, as if they were politicians somehow, almost like representing the
Mhm.
people, and so therefore the will of the people. And here already, before we jump in and we read this beautiful comment here by Lisa, we have a very interesting idea. The gods were, not only in the Bible, but pretty much in all ancient scripture, were fascinated by man, by their passion, by their lust for life, by their beauty. And so the will of the people was far more important to them, as we would perceive nowadays, where we have such an abyss between us and the elite politicians that don't care about what we're saying or what we need. They just run their strategies and very kind of weird politics, and they wage war even though the people don't want to. Like back in the ancient Greece, the will of the people represented in a way also the will of the gods. It represented themselves, so they couldn't really stand against the will of the collective. At a certain point, they had to obey them. At a certain point, they had to find a compromise. So even immortal gods had to find a way to get along with us mortal humans, which is an incredible thing, because they respected our willpower and our passion so much. They thought that there was something godly about our passion, and not what today people want to tell us, and the system wants to tell us, like, no, stay close, stay put, stay isolated, stay quiet, stay low. No, the gods actually love that about us, our way of not getting domesticated.
Yeah, no. And by the way, I do want to say, sorry about that. I thought I muted my mic. I was taking a sip of water. I was thirsty. I saw that I was muted. I was like, oh shit. Look,
even dragons need to drink.
Look,
Lisa
I'm just
says,
filling my thirst, man. Sorry, there you go.
Of course. But there are so many things we can't read and know. So we have to concentrate on this, what we can learn and find out, and create things for the humans after us. Maybe. No, this is a great comment. Absolutely. We need to leave a legacy. I also say that during my master classes, it's never about like nailing the audition. It's about leaving the legacy. And by the way, the next master class is on the 17th of February. You can, qualify by just register with the link down here in the description below, or in Eventbrite, or through my link tree on Instagram. It's like always for free. And afterwards, there's also a final Q&A. Highly recommend to join the master class. It's always a fun trip where you also get the chance to network with other artists, learn a lot about the acting craft, entertainment, audition. But not only that, it's a great way also to learn a couple of things about communicating and being really impactful with your message. So if you haven't so far, register with the link down below, or directly on Eventbrite, or through my Instagram. The next free masterclass is on February the 17th. All right. Dang, I would say
that was smooth. It sounded like you just like did it all in one breath. That's amazing.
I've learned something from Hypnotic.
That's amazing, bro. Guys, seriously, take the masterclass. Do it. He's actually very good. He's absolutely good. And it's in Miami. Come on.
TD is saying, are the masterclass just online or live in person, coach? So if you're in Miami, you can definitely hit me up for a free trial session, and you can come over to the studio physically, no problem. And we can have like a free exploration class where we talk and work a little bit. It's like always a nice mixture to find out if we are a great match for each other. Otherwise, just contact me through my website. It's readytoperform.com. That was dropped on the 15th, where we have all new courses, also the public speaking course, and you can contact me directly for a free trial masterclass. Of course, free trial class. It's not a masterclass; it's a free trial session. Yes. So
one day he'll get he'll get in the masterclass category. Okay, right now it's master, but eventually class will we'll make it. He's gonna make it, boys.
Of course, one day. So. Sound effect. So according to Homer, in the beginning of the Greek foundational myth, in the beginning of the of life in ancient Greece, there was nothing but chaos. In the beginning, there was just chaos. It was a black void. It was absorbing everything, and it was not, in a way, almost like a black hole, right? It was just confusion, and light wouldn't get out. So therefore, there was no creation. There was no being. And so out of chaos, the first beings that were created out of chaos, right? Where Gaia, and she is representative for Earth, and Eros. So in the beginning, after chaos, we just had Earth and love, which is a very interesting concept. Similar also to the American, Indians who believed that in the beginning there was just earth and fire. Love is fire. And Eros is, of course, the Greek god of love, but it's also spelled Eros, like arrows, because his weapon was bow and arrow. And out of Gaia and Eros, we have the birth of Uranus. And Uranus got together with Gaia, and they had 6 sons and 6 daughters. And those were the first primordial beings, the Titans. And
It's always
Eros, yeah.
interesting. Oh, sorry about that. I just
No, no,
wanted to
no,
point
go
out
ahead.
something. Sorry. I just noticed an interesting part about the numbering here. So
Yes,
it's interesting that it says that they had 6 sons and 6 daughters, because in a lot of mythical texts and traditions, the number 6 is used to define something as uh, involved with like divine architecture, divine design of the universe. And as we all
yes,
know, the Titans themselves were were the first primordial gods that gave
right,
everything form. So it makes sense that she had 6 sons and 6 daughters with the sky. You know,
right,
I
absolutely.
just thought it was fascinating.
It is very fascinating. It gives us also the 12th, of course, and the 12th is our holy principle, right? We have the number
Hmm.
12 reoccurring pretty much everywhere. It gives us the hours of the day. It gives us the 12 disciples. It gives us the 12 steps of Horus in ancient Egypt mythology, and also the 12 steps of the Nyx of the night, right? And so this is a very it's that's why I also kind of drew this yin and yang principle, because in a way we have something very similar here. We have the sky and the earth giving birth to these 12 majestic principles. And Nyx is also here, the night, like in Egyptian mythology, and Hemera is night and day basically, and they eradicated then Erebus, who was the darkness that came out of chaos. So out of chaos, Gaia and Eros and Nyx and Hemera, and all of a sudden we had Uranus, who gave birth with Gaia to the 12 Titans, and we finally saw the change of day and night. So now we have already a cycle. In the beginning, there was no cycle. There was no numbers. There was no meaning. Now we already kind of split it up into night and day, into the cycle of 6 and 6. And our numerical system is also based on that, which is really interesting, right?
No, yeah, definitely. And I also find it I do find it very fascinating that, they did just, chat. We're only focusing like on the real essentials, but
Right.
there were more Titans that were born after, and each one like represented
Oh,
more
yes.
specific and intricate
Of
facets
course. Yes.
of like the core ones. You could say that they were like they expressed a fragment of the
Yes.
parent, of whatever parent they had, depending,
Right.
but
Right.
they made it very core and essential to making sure the universe worked as a whole.
Yes.
People
Yes.
can say all about the Olympian gods and such, but at the end of the day, the Olympian gods are considered in Greek mythology as custodians. They can create stuff, okay, but
Hmm.
their power is not immense in terms of creation. It's more on order, keeping everything going and preserving and nurturing. So, but they can, of course,
Similar.
create, but yeah, go ahead.
Sure. It's similar to Norse mythology, where the gods
Mhm.
of Asgard weren't really like, okay, they could create stuff, but they were actually preservers. The one was preserver of time, the one was preserver of the mirrors, the one was preserver of the bridge that connects humans
Mhm.
to immortality, right? They were just not even like in a way, the ways like, okay, they were gods, but in a way they were also mortal. You could actually kill Odin, right? You could actually kill Loki. You could actually kill Thor. Eventually, they would come back as spirit, but the physical shape that they had was for the time being thousands of years old, but not immortal per se, even though they were gods. So even gods here, also in Greek mythologies, were just preserver of an even more ancient, maybe timeless concept, right? Like an universal concept in itself, which is very
Mhm.
fascinating. If you think about it, even gods have to bend, the knee to the will of the immortal universe.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
we
a lot of them consider the immortal universe to be sort of like what came out. I mean, in Greek mythology, obviously, it's talking specifically about the earth itself. But when you think about
right.
the gods, they it's sort of hinted at that they are aware of something even far older than them, more primordial, that they know
Hmm.
is what gave everything existence, you know, and it wasn't chaos. Chaos came from something, okay?
Right.
And that
Even chaos
something,
comes from something.
yeah,
Right.
exactly. And then from chaos, that something was able to make, you know, beings like Gaia and such. If we use like
Hmm.
uh the ancient
Yes.
Greek ideas, you know, and when you think about it, they respect. It was a way to show that there is a respect for the ancient. Even the gods respect what's older than them. You know.
What's older than them? Absolutely. And like you said, here, for example, we have Themis, right? She's a Titan, and she is the representative of justice and law. And then we had Hyperion, right? He was also a Titan. He was the sun. He was, with
Mhm.
his chariot. Later, he became Helios, and then we have Heliopolis, which is the city of On in Egypt. But actually, his first name Hyperion, right? That was the son, that was the father, and his sister was Selene, the moon, the shining light. So they were all, we're always talking about principles, about adjectives, about verbs, right? A hero
Mhm.
is a verb, a god is a verb. It's not a noun per se. And if you look at the Bible, in the beginning there was the word. In Greek mythology, in the beginning there was chaos. In the beginning of many, ancient scriptures, we have terms like chaos or darkness or the sound or Brahma, right? Brahma was
Mhm.
making the sound, and the six principles of, again, the number six of the sound came,
Mhm.
came to fruition and created the six aspects of life and all that.
Yeah.
So yes,
The
there
six
there is.
principles that control the physical fabric of the universe. The remaining three principles are more focused on the three of the three spiritual states, if I'm
Mhm.
correct. If I remember the whole logic, been a while.
The thing about the Greek mythology, why Greek mythology, I think, is so
Mhm.
popular in culture and movies and songs, and of course, it's called a logo, right? It's logos, right? It's God for
Mhm.
it's Greek for God in a way. So we have the idea of also of geometry from the Greeks, and they kind of transcribed this idea that there was something godly in every geometrical body, and so. But the thing about them that made them different than any other religion, any other sacred scripture in a way, is that the gods of Greek mythology had very human character traits. They were jealous, they were upset,
Mhm.
they were envious of each other, they were raging war, they were lustful and passionate, and and they had flaws. They were not immaculate gods like the Indian gods, for example. If you read the Upanishads, of course you have also some demons there and some devious gods there, but in the Upanishads you have very immaculate beings. They're very much like full of wisdom, and every god stands for a beautiful aspect, right? That is transcending time and thought. Here in Greek mythology, everything is very earthly. It's very lustful. Gods don't behave perfectly, and they're not always a beacon of light and truth. For example, we have Uranus, the sky, one of the first primordial beings, right? Who instead of, when he gave birth to those titans, right, he didn't let them live, in
Mhm.
his mountain or in his living room. No, he brought them down into Tartarus, right? He locked them down into the Tartarus and to the deepest depths of the world, right? Where usually
The
it
worst
was just
place ever.
pretty much the worst
literally,
place.
literally, we have light. No, literally, we have the physical universe. They explain this.
Right.
The physical universe gets made, right?
Mm.
And then we have Gaia, and I
Hmm.
believe it was Uranus. And then
Hmm. Exactly.
afterwards, they go, they say, "Oh yeah, sorry, here's hell." It's like it's terrible, bro. We're
Right,
sorry. Okay,
right.
you're if you
They
by the
created
way,
Tartarus, right, for the condemned souls, and but
yeah,
Uranus didn't want to share his living room, his beautiful mount, with his sons and his daughters. So he kind of
yeah,
entrapped them, right? He entrapped them down there in Tartarus, in the deepest depths of the
mhm,
world. And interesting, one of his sons, Kronos, escaped, right? Because
mhm.
Gaia hit him. And she created this indestructible sickle and gave it to Kronos, which is
Yes,
Saturn, which is it's a chronometer. It's time, basically. Kronos is
yeah,
where we have the chronometer from.
mhm.
And then she made Gaia made love to Uranus and led Kronos into the bedroom. And Kronos kind of cut off the Uranus penis with the sickle that was created by
Mhm.
Gaia, and that penis fell into the ocean, and out of that penis we have the goddess Aphrodite. So Aphrodite is the first of the
Olympians,
Olympic
right?
gods, first of the Olympians, and she was created
Yeah.
out of the penis of Uranus. And here we have also a mirroring
You know what's
of the
crazy?
concept. Yeah.
I sorry, I wanted to talk about this because
Right.
you know how I
Sure.
am about like just giving some more context as because
Sure.
what he said is all correct. I just want you guys to understand something. He gets so when they all get locked up, Cronus agrees to the plan, as Coach said. But the worst part is he he somehow was able to convince four of his brothers. I don't remember their names right off the top of my head, but he
Right.
convinced them to like lie in wait with him. And as
Mm-mm-mm.
Coach said, Gaia lured him in, okay, with some sexy time, and then the dude said, "All right, bros, hold him up." And before he used to sickle people, they stretched out all his four limbs, and then
Mm,
Kronos
mm.
did that. And somehow, and I always love this about the ancient Greeks, it's just it happened. This is how it is. Don't ask. She came out of the reason why Aphrodite was born out of it is because as Uranus's big willy hit the sea, somehow it caused a ripple, and out of that ripple came out
Right.
the most beautiful goddess ever. I don't know how, but when you think about the fact that she's described as a very horny goddess, it makes a lot of sense.
And it
You
makes a
know,
lot of
like
sense.
yeah, for them it made a lot of sense because it's like, oh, okay, yeah, it makes sense. You know, she was born out of the ripples made of a giant penis falling in the sea. Yeah, makes sense. She's horny
It
for men
makes
all the
sense.
time.
So again, also Greek mythology delivers to us like a beautiful analogy, right? Here
Mhm.
we have. I can stop this really quick, and I show you, of course, how the Venus is perceived nowadays, right? This is Aphrodite. This is the Venus. This is Botticelli's painting. If you ever happen to go to
Mhm.
Florence, make sure to go to the Uffizi Museum. It's the biggest in the world, and you will find this amazing picture here, this amazing painting. And by the way, this is a musical piece. So Botticelli, these are notes, right? You can scan this, and you will have a musical piece for flutes and violins if you play this. This is actually like a
Ooh.
scoreboard with notes. This is actually a song. What you're seeing here.
Is this like a very scandalous song that he couldn't show out in public? No. The
I
reason
get
I'm saying that is because
no, no, could
yeah,
be.
no. The reason I'm saying that is because a lot of painters like him used to hide stuff in their paintings that they only wanted people that know what they know to see,
Right?
so they
No,
could
no,
avoid the
absolutely.
Vatican from
And
killing
it's
them.
absolutely, and famously Goethe, Leonardo, if he ever like existed but there are famously many artists from the past that tried to avoid punishment by whether the king or the church, and they kind of of course hid certain messages under the aspect of being something completely else. So only by the initiates these messages could be read or deciphered, and so people really understood what the painting or the poem or the song was actually originally about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Very
exactly.
interesting. So what, like you were saying, and we have this here, which is I find also very fascinating. We have the analogy also to ancient Egyptian mythology, where Isis was lamenting the loss of her husband Osiris, who was kind of um, brought down by this conspiracy of 23 or 72, sometimes, depending on the
Mhm.
sources, sometimes it's 23
Yeah.
conspirators, sometimes 72, and they held him and also cut off his penis and distributed all these pieces in the sea, and ISIS couldn't find
Mhm.
his penis anymore, so she
Yeah.
erected everywhere, she erected obelisks. So we have that
There
myth
was
kind of.
a yeah, no, there was an obsession with
Mhm.
that, but for the outsider looking in, they'll be like, "My God, why are these people so obsessed with penises? Like, geez, get a room." But in real life, it's more like you got to understand, like
right.
to ancient peoples at the time they wrote this, like the male organ was seen sort of like as the carrier and the giver of the seed of life. It's what separated a man
Mhm.
from a woman. It was sort of used it was used in those societies as a symbol of power because with manhood, you could say power is one of those things that's inherent.
Yes.
Strength, vigor, whatever you can think of,
Right.
and that's
And it's
why when you have an act of a guide or someone castrating a person, a man,
Mhm.
it's sort of like taking away their manhood, their ability to express themselves as a man. And in those time periods, that was something that was considered very bad. you know
Yes. The
Besides the
obelisk.
obvious reasons, but the societal stuff is worse.
Absolutely. In a way, also, if you look at the Temple Solomon, you have the two pillars that are flanking the entrance of the Temple of Solomon, and you have Boaz and Jachin, and both pillars right there, left-handed and
Mhm,
right-handed. They're standing for those male principles of, because Boaz means the fiery one, and Jachin means the hard one. Like, this is really
mhm,
literally what it means. So this is where creation comes, right? Out of that gate, then the new life will be born, right? So we need
mhm,
we need both aspects, which is really interesting, because people were so fascinated back in the days about that aspect of birth, of life, of that cycle of life.
mhm,
And here again, things are also repeating all the time. So Gaia and Uranus, they created 12 kids, and one of those kids were of course was Kronos and Rhea. They were a brother and sister, and they on their behalf, they created they had 6 kids as well, one of them being Zeus. And the cycle was repeating itself again, because Kronos heard from various sources, but from a soothsayer, basically, that Zeus would usurp him, would throw him down his throne. So Kronos did the same thing as Uranus
mhm.
did. Instead of banishing his sons into
Always the
Tartarus,
soothsayers, bro. Always the damn soothsayers. They just can't shut
they
up.
did. They can't shut up. It's the goat in the back. Your son will kill you.
and then they're like-
And it's like,
and then the dude's like,
all
but
right, let's eat him up.
yeah, no, and the dude's like, we're like, bro, wait, are you serious? Like, just straight up kill me? Well, no, it's a possibility, but he's gonna be powerful too. And then this
Very
dude
much.
just
He's
gets like
gonna resent
anxious.
you, right? He's gonna be way more beautiful than you, way more beautiful.
It's like the Wicked Witch screwing over Snow White.
It's like Kung Fu
I mean,
Panda.
not Wicked Witch, the Queen.
Yeah,
God.
it was
Oh,
great.
yeah.
So again, things are mirroring again. So Kronos is eating all of his kids, and Rhea, of course, was very worried, like Gaia was back in the days. And so what she does, she hides Zeus on Mount Ida, on Crete. And basically Zeus in the story of Homer gets raised by Gaia, by his grandmother. And the whole time, when Kronos was thinking that he was feeling his kids, there was this one kid that was actually a brick inside of his belly, and the other one, Zeus, was growing on Mount Ida secretly. And he then became the one who usurped, of course, Kronos, opened up his belly, freed all of his siblings, And then he started the famous war, the War of the Titans.
Mhm. Wait, no,
And
wait. We gotta tell
yes.
people how he even like threw up the other five, because that's funny. As
Please go
so
ahead.
no, yeah, no. He didn't want to mention it because like I don't. He doesn't know if some of you are eating, but I'll say it. If y'all can't eat anymore, it's my fault. Okay, fine, I'll take it. But but what happened is he hatched a plan with one of the, if I believe it was one of the nymphs that was taking care of him, along with
Yes.
Gaia, and this nymph basically gave him this elixir, and he
Yes.
disguised himself as an old man and gave, or as a cupbearer, and gave this cup with this elixir to Kronos, which, let's just say, I don't think it was a laxative, bro. It was something. Whatever it was, it made him throw up 5 kids in one go.
Right.
I don't know how
Yeah.
that works, but it.
I think that's I think that's the Shaolin Kung Fu stuff that you get also in the temple. If you're a Westerner, you get this
Yeah.
broth for a week straight. So you throw up for 2 weeks. You throw up all your Westernized rotten culture. So finally, you are pure enough to
Oh.
receive Shaolin teachings. And
Oh.
the nymph
Interesting.
was Themis again. She was the only Titan that was kind of had her loyalty for the gods and not for the Titans. And she was helping. Well, in some accounts, it's a nymph, but because Themis is a nymph also and a Titan, in certain accounts, sometimes it's a bit confusing who did what. But yeah,
Interchangeable.
it's interchangeable. But basically, they threw, like Kronos vomited, his 5 kids out: Hera, Demeter, Poseidon, Hestia, and Hades. And Zeus came back with the help also of the Cyclops that he released from Tartarus, right? And he waged war against the Titans. Atlas was one of the big Titans that was leading the charge against the Olympian gods, against Zeus, because he wanted the old order to be restored, the old order of the Titans. He couldn't believe that there were like these new gods, these new hotshots, kind of springing up and threatening their rule. And
Young
so this
whippersnappers.
how do you dare, right? And
Yeah.
so out of Crete, Zeus, freed the Cyclops, who crafted, because the Cyclops crafted the lightning bolt for Zeus, the trident for Poseidon, and the hat of invisibility, or the helmet of invisibility. And so with these 3 weapons, they were actually the deal breaker. With these 3 weapons finally equipped, they could win this immense and enormous battle. And so the Titans were themselves thrown into Tartarus. And Atlas, who was the general of the Titans, was then punished by Zeus to bear the weight of planet Earth for eternity. And we still have today, in today's Morocco, we have the Atlas Mountains. And funny enough, Atlas is also called as the one who founded Atlantis, the mythical island of Atlantis. And the mythical island of Atlantis was also an island of Geminis. A lot of twins would be born. So this island, or this place, or this city, however you want to perceive Atlantis for what it is, was famous for a lot of its inhabitants being twins. And in today's Morocco, we have this area where we have Nigeria and Mauritania and Morocco, the Western Sahara, where we not only have the Reichardt structure that resembles a lot, right, Atlantis and its writings, Herodot. You can find a lot of writings that correspond to the structure, which is called the Eye of the Sahara sometimes as well. But this area in Western Africa is also the area where most twins on planet Earth are born. So again, we have somehow this echo of Greek mythology coming back to us, trying to tell us something, right? It's very funny.
It's interesting they mention the fact that Atlas was the general was the one that was punished most severely, I would say,
Mhm.
because it kind of reminds me of the story of the Watchers from the Book of
Mm-hmm.
Enoch,
Right.
where the chief angel in the group that started the whole thing of interbreeding with the mortal women and everything. I
Right.
forget his name. I have it top of my head, but I cannot remember the damn name.
Of course, of course. You always say that.
No, I
Guys in the
seriously,
chat or Instagram or Facebook, if you know the name, come over to
please,
YouTube and write it down, please.
please, because I cannot remember off the top of my. Uh, hey, look, I
Yeah,
want to know too, because I had no idea that was real.
yeah.
Okay, I didn't know there was like a broth that made you vomit for 2 weeks straight, but it's what it is.
Yes.
No, but
They do this especially to West people. They also sometimes do it for the Asians, but usually this gets used when Westerners are coming to apply to get the teachings from Shaolins, because they believe that Westerners are kind of poisoned and it needs to come out.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no. At the end of the day, like I feel like there's parallels between that story. I mean, obviously more stories, but that one specifically, that specific instance, it reminds me of that specific point. Sort of like this thing where the order of everything changes. It's like that catalyst that sets the beginning for a new phase in the world's history. Now it's no longer like in Greek mythology's case. Now it's no longer about primordial gods and constant creation. Now it's time for new gods to take over that will mostly be focused on keeping order, keeping everything going. So keeping everything stable. Sure, they can create, but their powers of creation are done more with prudence for the higher purpose of keeping the natural order of the universe going, rather than just creating for the sake of creating, because as we all know, there are already enough things doing exactly that in Greek mythology. Other beings that have nothing to do with the order, natural order. Like, for example, like this drawing you're showing right now, that's, for those of you who don't know, that's the hecatoncheires. That's basically like the 100-armed giant monstrosity that Gaia made. The poor thing, literally, I'm sorry to tell you all this, man, but even in Greek mythology, they were rough on ugly people. I swear, like Gaia, Gaia, like any mother, loved her son with everything she had, but Uranus, and then later Cronus, they were like, "No, son, you ugly. Go back to jail." And then Zeus is like, "Hey, kid, you want to beat up your dad?" And then he's like, "Hell yeah." And that's how they won the war, besides the weapons, but it's
basically
crazy.
It's the thing is, like I said in the beginning, what's very fascinating about this tale of Greek mythology always is the fact that just want to reflect on this a little bit. They are so enamored with their feelings, like these primordial beings, these gods, right? They were so enamored with how they felt. They felt threatened by their kid. All right, let's imprison all titans, right? They felt threatened by their siblings or by any other. Okay, let's eat them right away, right? It's like this immediate reaction to things, as if Greek mythology wants to tell us, like, here you have this blueprint of emotions and feelings when they're raging against each other, like what can happen. And I think this war, and also the 100-armed giant that also helped Zeus, to kind of fight the titans. These are all the things that we would love to, to achieve. These are these worldly aspirations. And somehow, even in the Bible, we find very, very much in the beginning, you mentioned Enoch, but we have in the Bible, we have in Genesis, they are telling us clearly, gods loved humans. They were in love with the ladies. They were in love with their beauty. So there was something about emotions, right? As if like there were different types of gods. When we look at the gods from like Oriental, let's say like Asia, they seem to be very more detached from planet Earth. Even though, of course, we have the Vedic scriptures where there are wars and fights, but they were more like amongst the gods themselves. They kept actually distance from humans. Here in the Western part, the Greek gods and the Roman gods later, they were completely involved, and also in the Genesis in the Bible, right? Completely involved with mankind on a daily
It's like
basis
they did
almost.
both. It's like they did both, but nobody
Yeah.
wants to admit it. If you think about the myths, anyways, it's always gods just constantly doing whatever. Like on one end of the globe, they're doing whatever they want. No cares about it. We'll deal with it later. And then on this
Right.
side of the globe, you have with Hindu myth and other Eastern myths, it's like, oh yeah, we're just kind of chilling
Yeah.
here. We exist. Oh yeah, sometimes we give you some good advice because we see you're going bad, and if we have to
Right.
interfere, it's usually because some demon is being very very naughty. But
Right.
but when I think about it, I feel like they're both talking about the same story. It's just that one side thinks this is how it was, and is mostly a reflection at the end of the day of the individual societies. Maybe that's why they are so distinct, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Since Eastern societies, at least in the context of ancient history, okay, let's be honest here, Far Eastern societies, especially were Hindu mythology and Japanese mythology, Chinese mythology, Korean mythology, whatever you can think of, Far Eastern mythology, their societies are very conservative. Okay,
Mhm.
so it would make sense for their gods to also be very conservative and prudent. While as in the
Mm.
other end of the world, sure, they were conservative, but not that much. They kind
Mm.
of did whatever they wanted. They were very free spirited, and as long as it didn't go too far, of course, and you kind of
Yeah, of
regulate
course.
and you control yourself, to the certain, and you put yourself in the right areas of the social norms. So
But
it's
don't you,
very
but
interesting.
no,
Mhm.
no, absolutely. But the fascinating thing is that, like I said, like the gods, respectively to where they were painted and where we can find their accounts, are always reflecting the emotional aspect of the population that is reading their stories.
Mm.
So here in the Mediterranean basin, right, we have the Bible, Greek mythology, the Syrian Jesus, and also, of course, the ancient Egyptians, and here you see gods very much emotional, very very loud, very out for conquer, very wise as well, but attracted by life very much. And this is how perfectly this is reflecting perfectly the identity also of this minor Asia and Mediterranean basin. If we go to Asia, the gods there and their behavior, of course, reflected perfectly how the population also was behaving, and how they were kind of displaying their emotions, and how they were living day by day. Gods there were had a completely different attitude. So I find it fascinating, right, that every tale kind of also gives the gods attributes and ways of behaving that in a way is, of course, very terrestrial.
Mhm. No, yeah, you're right. And by the way, Chad, I remembered. I did remember the name of the Watcher. It was the leader of the Watchers was called Zemyaza. That's what I was trying to get across. By the way,
um, my troll against anti-enemy right night wingers. The East is more conservative than the conservative in the West. Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's a
yes,
good point. We also talked
yeah,
about this on Saturday Night Hypnosis a couple of nights, Saturdays ago. That's true.
yeah.
That's true.
No, it's always very, yeah. People don't seem to understand, like, unless you do some research into the myth or societies or just the stories
Mm,
regarding those certain parts of the world, you don't realize how what extreme conservatism is until you look at ancient Far Eastern history, but specifically in history concerning um, China,
mm.
Korea, and Japan specifically. With Japan, in my opinion, though, it could be interchanged with China being probably the worst case scenario
Yes,
uh,
unfortunately.
for extreme conservatism in their ancient history. But that's how it was.
It was. I mean, and of course, like it has always a fascinating aspect to it. And I feel like I have a friend who worked in Hong Kong for a couple of years, and he always wanted to go out with the local people, and they said, "No, we don't like you whites that much." They were like completely like honest. Don't is like don't
No.
get it personal, but he always like, "Why are you going out with me? Like besides working with me, why don't we go out and kind of
Mhm.
no, it's okay. We mingle with our people. You mingle with your people."
No,
And
Whitey, you can't
then,
join.
but I love their
Oh,
honesty. Like this is great. Like somebody else would have not, said like, this is interesting
yeah,
how they openly said, no, no, no,
better
no,
than lying to you, you know?
yes, we want to stay in our culture. This is how we want to do
Uh-huh.
it. No,
Yeah,
no big
no,
deal about it. Yeah.
exactly. And the thing is with I don't know, with Greek mythology, to me, what always fascinated me is, after the whole war is over, the is it
Mhm.
Gigantomachy or Titanomachy? I can't not remember which one it is, or is it used in both instances?
It's
Uh,
both in
the name
like yeah, it's in both instances getting used. I want
was
to
that?
hear.
Sorry, I couldn't hear.
No, no, it gets used in both instances.
Hmm.
And
Oh yes, I forgot about the Great Flood, but no, no, no. I'll hold off
yes,
until we get there.
no, no,
Oh, it'll
we
be
get there.
good.
We get in a second. Oh, this is a big one. Like, should I
Yes,
show people like what the whole thing looks like? Let's
you
let's
should.
let's
People should see this
right.
because this is amazing,
Like,
Chad.
okay, we are just on a tiny fraction of this whole thing that actually looks
Hmm.
like this.
Yep.
This is the
Yes, Chad.
madness.
We
Yes.
only showed you half. We're getting there, though.
No, no,
It's
we're not. Yeah,
you
we
have
have to
yet
speed
to
up.
witness its true power.
Oh, yes. So this whole thing. So you get a
Mhm.
real idea. This is the first age. This is the how everything kind of started, and then how we got into the golden age, bronze and silver, and then we get to the age of heroes that we will discuss in another show. If Dragon Slayer
Mhm.
commentary is gracious enough to bless us with his incredible ancient presence.
Oh, I
Um,
love this. I love
we
Greek
have to talk
mythology.
really. Yeah, it's fantastic. It's the best. Since I'm a kid, I was always fascinated because, like I said, the principles and the stories are timeless. Let's talk about the three brothers really quick because we
Yes.
have them pretty much everywhere. Like we have, of course, the combination of Zeus, who is the sky, who is the representative of the sky, and the lightning bolts, his sign being the eagle and the lightning bolt. Then we have because the hundred handed giants and the Cyclops, they constructed these three weapons for the three brothers. This is the trinity that of the Greek mythology of the Greek tribes in a way. So we have Zeus, who's the representative of the sky, who's also the controller of all weather. We have Poseidon, who's the controller of all sea, of all water, who's controller of the earthquakes. Very interesting. Like
Mhm.
Poseidon was with his trident, with this weapon, you could like channel some sort of a wave, of an energetic wave that could cause earthquakes. Very interesting. And then we have the Hades. Of course, he is the god of the underworld, and he was always invisible when wearing his helmet. And we have these three principles: the trident, the lightning bolt, and the invisibility helmet, or the invisibility cap, or the invisibility hat. We have it throughout entertainment industry. Like if you think about Back to the Future, for example, Marty McFly is Pluto, right? The alien from
Mhm.
Pluto. The planet Pluto is associated with Hades, and he was always invisible when flying back into time while he had his hat on. Somehow people wouldn't see him when he would put his black 50s hat on. They couldn't see him. Sometimes in the rear mirror, okay, but otherwise he was like always kind of flying through time. He was a phantom. He was the representative of Hades. uh, Doc Brown is the guy in charge of electricity. That's Zeus. That's the sky aspect, right? Doc Brown is
Mhm.
on the tower trying to capture a lightning bolt out of the sky and put it into the car so Hades could fly back into the future. And Hades is only created because his parents met at the enchantment under the sea ball, right? At Neptune's
Mhm.
ball, at Poseidon's ball, the famous school party where they first kissed, with mom and dad first kissed. And you can see actually the Poseidon statue in the movie as well. So Back to the Future
That's
tells us the
amazing.
story. Yeah, the story of the
I
three
never
brothers.
thought about that. That's
But we also have it in Harry Potter, where Dumbledore, of course, is Zeus again. He's the representative of the sky, and he
he's
has
got
the
the wand
phoenix.
of power. Yeah,
He's got a
and the
one of
phoenix.
power, right? The cloak of invisibility is Harry Potter's most favorite artifact, right? He is Pluto. He's Hades. He's the lord of the underworld, right? And Poseidon, the brother, right, of earthquakes and the ultimate force, the trident, the ultimate wand. That's Voldemort.
It's always amazing how people don't know that
Hmm.
these old stories, we even if the writers of like newer stories are not trying to hint at or emulate any of these
Right,
three gods, they
right.
somehow end up doing it. It's like
Yes,
ingrained in our DNA that at one
yes,
point there existed something that represented how do I say this? Just raw how to say raw power. No,
right.
sorry. I would say total authority, raw power, and dominance over death. You know,
Yes.
like you can see that because Zeus, well, he was powerful. He was considered to be more. His power lied mostly in his ability to be able to get everyone together, and that's what I
Mhm.
thought it was amazing.
Right. He's always, at the top of the dome. He's always on top of the capital, right? He's bringing all people together. He has always widened arms so he can, kind of reconnect everybody and everything. And after this war, Zeus installed himself as the supreme god of Greece, right? And so with him, there was the birth of the first generational of the Olympian gods in a way, right?
Mhm.
And in the beginning, there
Six
were
of them.
actually right.
It was six
So
of them because originally it
yeah,
was there was one though that later on willingly stepped down. I forget which Hestia was the one that stepped
yeah,
down willingly
yeah,
in the but that was because Dionysus had a pretty
yeah,
Dionysus like Hephaestus had a pretty
yes,
rough time.
yes.
They look different,
Oh yeah,
so
yeah.
they got kicked out multiple
They got
times.
kicked multiple times, right? Right. They interchanged. Also, sometimes they were sent down. Sometimes they
Mhm.
got up, and it kind of expanded over time. And Zeus also had seven wives, in the course of his
Mhm.
rule, and only the last wife is Hera, of course, his sister. That was declared to be the queen of the gods. The others were actually regarded as mistresses or just like some affairs, not really wives. The first wife
Why
that
always
was
the
regarded
sisters? It's always the stinking sisters.
always, always,
I
also in
do not know.
Sumerian lore,
Yeah, right?
it needs to be yes, of course. And also, if you look at it, I believe nowadays today. These royal houses, the Swedish royal house or the English royal crown, they want to tell us they are cousins. But I believe this to be still a rule that they observe. That's why sometimes we don't see their kids, or their kids are simply crazy because it's of incest, right? They tell us they are
Mhm.
cousins, but I think they are deeper ingrained and deeper relatives than they want actually admit. So it always
Oh,
had
if
to be
Ryan
this.
were watching, he could let us know.
Yes, yes.
Oh man.
So we have this
No.
first array that now is known to everybody, right? Or at least to a lot of people. We have Aphrodite, who was born before, as we already got to know. Poseidon, right? Zeus, Hera, Demeter, who was standing for harvest, and she was the goddess of autumn. Hestia, she's also later what became Hestia is later also Theva, and she was then later adopted also by the minor Asian cultures and with different names. And Hades, of course, then the lord of the underworld, the lord of the dead. And out of that combination here, we got Apollo, who was the god of beauty, of archery, of music. Artemis, her sister, goddess of the hunt, Hermes, who is the messenger of the gods, right? A very important figure who later then became Trismegistus for the Egyptians, and what we
Mhm.
regard nowadays to be the god Thoth, right? So Hermes is Mercury, and Mercury later on for the Romans, and is also Hermes has a lot of connotations and similarities to the Norse god Loki.
Yes, when
Hephaestus,
you think about it, yeah, because he
right?
does run around a
He does
lot
run
all the
around.
time, a little
He's
trickster.
he's a trickster. He's a
Yeah.
cunning guy, right? He's
Mm.
the god of the mirrors of smoke as well. So
Mhm.
there are a lot of similarities here again, which is crazy, right? So we have this huge line of connection coming from the northern parts of Scandinavia till the southern parts of what the world was known back in the days. So they all shared
Mhm.
similar traits, similar lore. Athena,
It's
of
it's
course.
crazy because sorry, I just want to say
No,
something.
no,
I,
no.
I
Sure, sure, sure.
I feel like the reason why we see such a like similar influences of hey, there you go.
And
That's
there you
how it
go.
is, TD. That
Right.
a lot of companies like to use names from Greek mythology because they
Oh
feel
yeah.
like it's perfect. Like you can use a single name and people can go like, oh, that name I know it from somewhere else, and this place
Yes.
does exactly what this god does or this thing that represents that does. It's crazy how words have that much meaning and power when you think about it. Hence why every single name for these Greek gods is so uniquely written because each name has a meaning behind them. Like, for example, people could say, oh, Apollo and Artemis are all about archery. Why isn't he a god of the hunt? Well, it's because Artemis is a female god, it's a twin. She's a twin of
Mhm.
Apollo, not the twin, but like actually, yeah, twin by like a few days or something like that.
Yeah.
And she is also known as a patron uh, goddess who is a protector of women. Okay, she was widely worshipped as that, a protector of goddess of chastity, if you will. So there is differences between both gods.
Mhm.
Apollo was more obsessed over the finer arts, and he
Mhm.
was also known as a god of mostly associated with divination because
Mhm.
believe it or not, the Oracle of Delphi in all the Greek
Yes.
mythological stories they took their information from Apollo. So
Yes.
there is a reason for that. And
Yes.
Hermes
Well,
as well, he had this special trait where he was not only a messenger, but he was also a guide to the souls of the dead to lead them into the underworld. So they
he
all
would
had like
lead them
secondary
to
functions.
Yeah, he would lead them to Shauron, and would also give the coin to the dead so they could place it under the tongue, and that Shauron would lift the tongue and get the coin, and would grant them safe passage into the world of the dead. Also very interesting, that the underworld, as we perceive it now through the Old Testament, was quite differently in Greek mythology. You had Tartarus, which was, of course, that dark void, right? It's the deepest depth of the world and was usually the punishment for condemned souls. But you had the Elysium. You had certain like areas
They
of
had
the
levels.
underworld,
Yeah.
right? You had different
There
levels.
was more to it. Tartarus was just
Yes.
like, bro, it's like in a company building. You have
Mm-hmm.
Hades is the head manager. Okay,
Right.
he's got assistants with him, and these assistants handle certain parts of
Yes.
certain departments of the corporation. Okay, and the place has multiple floors. Not all the floors are about making you suffer eternal torment. That's only for the worst offenders. Most of the time, there was like Elysium was for heroes or people that were extremely good natured, like they did
Yes.
incredibly good deeds. And then there was another level for people that they didn't live
Really like
notable
live
lives,
any
but they lived
special
honest lives,
lives,
right?
right? Right.
It was like the paradise for the honest person. and then you
Right.
had
It was a bit
Tartarus.
boring. And then you
Exactly,
had
it's kind of
down.
boring. Yeah, and then you kind of reincarnated, which is funny because they people don't even notice that. But yeah, you would
Yeah.
reincarnate after a while. Like you could
Yeah,
choose in
after
Elysium, you could
thousands of
choose
years, yeah, and they would kind
1,000 years.
of
Yeah.
wipe out 1,000 years, and then they would wipe your memory. You wouldn't remember anything
Uh-huh.
of your past lives, and then you could
Yeah.
actually choose once in Elysium if you wanted. But most of the people, of course, most of the souls wanted to stay in
Mhm.
Elysium because it was just fantastic, right? Just beautiful to
There,
live
there's
there.
a movie idea, Hollywood. Why don't you make a damn movie about that? That would
Why
be
not?
amazing.
Why not?
Just that concept.
Yes, I mean, if you look at H.G. Wells at the Time Machine, also there are some concepts of the Elysium, Tartarus, of all these different concepts of the underworld, kind of woven into the fabric of the story, and later on also of the movie. So, but yeah, like clearly fleshed out like this, I haven't seen it so far. So that would be definitely interesting. Let me know in the comment section down below, guys, if you would see a movie like this, if you would watch it. We should definitely think about it. Like producing something like that. And I also want to remind you guys that Dragon Slayer Commentaries is a hell of a YouTuber who creates incredibly funny videos. He shits on everything that is worth shitting on, and he praises everything that is worth praising, which is not a lot nowadays. But when he praises, oh my lord, it's beautiful. And when he shits for real. It's super funny. His editing, it's incredible. Like the work, the effort, the love that he puts into the videos, his funny voices, his imitations. I mean, he claims to be not what he is, but in fact, I believe he is a dragon. He's actually a keeper of ancient secrets. He's a dragon that is now kind of cloaking and camouflaging as a human being with this voice. But I think I really believe he's a dragon. And you can also catch him on Saturday Night Hypnosis, of course, with myself every Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Hypnotic's YouTube channel.
Oh yeah, hey, thanks for the shout out, bro. Because
Oh, of course,
honestly,
man, you deserve
it. Nah, bro, but I love having these talks with you, dude, all the
it.
time. But now I think about it, oh yeah, we forgot. Oh yeah, we're in the middle of getting some
Yes.
kids in here. Like you gotta understand, the first Olympian gods, like before Hestia stepped down, it was just 6,
Yes.
and then afterwards, Zeus got to work on his baby factories, pumping out
Oh
kids.
yes.
And this
We will get to this.
yeah,
Like, all right,
this
he had
guy
7
loves
wives,
pumping
right?
out kids.
Yeah,
Holy shit.
he couldn't take, like, once he established rule over his Mount Olympus and everything was settled and beautiful, he started producing. So his
Oh
first
yeah.
wife was Metis. We get the term she is mythology we actually get from the name Metis, right? She is actually a Titan. She's a nymph, the daughter of Oceanus, and I think I don't know the name of the Titaness, right? But Oceanus himself had 3,000 daughters. So already he was a very skillful producer. And his most beautiful and most skilled and most wise daughter was Metis, and that was Zeus' first wife. And with her, he had 3 kids, 3 daughters, and they were called the 3 Fates. And the first one was Clotho, the spinner. And she, on her spindle, she would, spin one silk thread, and that silk thread was your life. So she controls every thread of every human life when it comes into being, right? Whenever she creates a thread, that's a new life, that's a new being. And you remember that movie You Wanted with James McAvoy, where they could shoot around the corner with Angelina Jolie? And Morgan Freeman was the keeper of this obscure secret society that they were kind of weaving this gigantic time fabric, and this rock they were weaving was actually the prediction of time. So somehow this kind of resonates with that, where we have the firstborn. No, this was the youngest daughter of Metis and Zeus, that was the spinner. Then we have Lachesis, the oldest daughter, the Elater. She had this rod, similar to an Egyptian rod, where she could, measure the length of each thread. That was the duration of every life. And then
It's always a thread. You know,
It's
it's
always a
always a
threat.
threat. I don't know. It's because I always find that fascinating, but when I think about it, you can use it for like deeper meanings because threats, in order for them to hold anything or to create anything, you have to spin them constantly. Like one thread is
Yes,
meaningless, but
right,
multiple threads now create a tapestry, and that
right.
tapestry can mean something. And I do have to say I know the Fates had this job to do, but they sound like a bunch of emo kids that were like just they
They
dumped
were
the
like
job on
pale
him.
kids sitting in the basement. I hate my job. Let's make another selfie about how I hate
Literally,
my life. Right?
no,
And I
it's
had
literally like
it's true, like
it's
depressed
true.
emo kids with their cell phones. I
No,
totally
no,
agree.
like think about it. It's just
Yeah,
like
it's true.
one is
Oh
like,
man, what a
uh,
fucking
oh
job!
yeah,
Like, oh yeah, I have to.
yeah. I make this thread, bro. Like these humans is kind of lit. I think this guy Perseus is pretty chill, and then the other one is like, and Lachesis is like, oh really? Let me see how good he is. Oh, okay,
Yes.
he's nothing. He ain't shit. And then Atropos is like, all right, bro,
Oh yeah,
stop it. Okay, let me
stop
cut this
it.
bastard. Let me
Right.
cut this bastard. I
And
want to cut.
before we get
They're all
trouble with the
insane.
Smithsonian guys, the three fates. I'm sorry, I just
Yeah.
they were kids to Themis, and Themis was the titan of justice and law that helped also Zeus to fight their siblings, because she was the only one of the titans that was loyal to the gods. And later on, the titans, of course, sided with her, but she was leading the charge against Atlas and co. And Themis was giving birth to the three fates, to Clotho, Lachesis, and Atropos. The Metis, the daughter of Oceanus, the nymph of skill and wisdom, uh, also from which we derived the term mythology, she was the mother of Athena. Not only the
Mhm.
crazy thing is that here we have history repeating itself again,
You
because
had the name of Oceanus' wife. You wrote it
right,
and you forgot you wrote it. It's Tethys. It's kind of fun.
it's it has a point,
It
but
happens. It's
it
okay.
happens. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry,
You're
Chad. It's a
good.
lot
You're
of
good.
names, and we're like a
It's way
big
too many
effort.
names.
And
Oh
so
man.
Uranus warned Zeus that his first son, or his first kid, was usurping him. And so what Zeus did, he ate Metis while she was pregnant of him, right? And when he couldn't bear the headache anymore, Hephaestus, his brother, cracked up his skull open with an axe, and out of his skull, Athena was born. The goddess of wisdom, of war, of infinite skills. A
Mhm.
very, very powerful goddess that we see
With
today
full armor, by the way,
with
fully
full
grown,
armor, fully
everything.
grown, ready to charge.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah,
the crazy thing is, like, with wasn't it was it Prometheus or Uranus? I can never remember either,
right.
bro. Like, was it Uranus or Prometheus that gave him the warning about, like, oh no, 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 it was no, bro. I remember
It
now.
was
It was
Prometheus warning.
It
It
was
was Prometheus
Prometheus.
warning. Yes,
Yeah, because
we
Prometheus wanted to. He didn't want to tell Zeus the
right.
prophecy because he was afraid that if he did, some poor person would get killed or would suffer his
Yes,
wrath. You
exactly.
know? Yeah, but it's still
And
funny how she came out of that.
she
A
came
headache
right up
too.
to bed, right, with a headache, big headache. She is, by the way, in a way, she's the patron of libraries and museums, and you can see the owl being, her animal, being also portrayed a lot on encyclopedias, libraries. You can find the owl being a representative of Athena because of the night studies. The owl that could turn the head 360 degrees, the watcher of the night, the guardian of midnight. And so both are connected to books, to wisdom, to libraries, to museums, to the collection of knowledge, which is really, really interesting. And here, of course, we have Tethys, who then also was the mother of Achilles, right? This is like a river goddess who was, yes, the wife of Oceanus, one of the titans of this, one of the river titans. Very
Mm.
interesting what happened afterwards. When Athena was born, and pretty much now we can go on like for days about all the mistresses and the wives of Zeus. We
Oh
will get
yeah.
to that. It's a never-ending story, but these are
6 more women later, and we have 6 more Olympians, the other half being all of Zeus's
right.
kids.
Hera was pretty upset about her husband because she would
Yeah.
only have two childs of him, and the rest was the product of many different labors, right? But the thing that came with this rule was the fact that one Titan, his name was Prometheus, and which is really interesting because Prometheos means before theology. This is what the name actually means translated. Before,
Mhm.
Metheos. Theos is theology or God before the lore of the gods was established. So again, we have in the name, we have already engraved the meaning that before there was an age of God, there was already like beings. So this is maybe also
Mhm.
Homer telling us, hey, gods were not that immortal. Before them, there was something else, right? But this
Yeah.
Prometheus, he looked to planet Earth and he said, okay, you guys, Zeus has fought his wars. He has now a lot of kids. He's producing a lot of gods. And also with his mistress Leto, he produced Apollo and Artemis. But
Mhm.
what about human beings? I mean, Earth was just covered with beasts and snakes and dragons and all sorts of beings. There was no man. There
Yeah.
was no woman. So he packed some clay, similar to what happened in the Bible. He grabbed some clay and he formed again
Mhm.
with the sickle type of instrument. The sickle is also a weapon that we
Yeah.
an instrument that we find always, like Perseus. Everybody was using a sickle, never like a
Is it
sword.
a chisel? Is it no, not a chisel. It's more like, man,
It's
I know what
like
you're
a
talking about. It's
rounded, like a druid type of instrument.
yeah.
Like the druids had this sickle
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
it was Selene, right? It was the moon, right? This is the
Yeah.
sickle.
You know what's
And
crazy is that with Prometheus, if you guys want to know an interesting connection with the myth of Prometheus and the creation of man, a writer that really used that to his advantage was Tolkien. In the
mm,
Silmarillion, the
mm,
creation of the dwarves is actually exactly or slightly different, but almost very similar to mankind's creation by Prometheus. You have a god
mm,
who knows what he's doing. It's sort We have a god that's like a mix of Prometheus and Hephaestus, and he
mm,
makes his creations out of the earth. In this case, from stone. Now, in this case, with man, it was from clay because, well, that's just what the ancient Greeks
it's
were
the
used to.
golem, right?
Yeah,
It's
it's
the
the
golem
golem
principle.
exactly. It's giving the breath of life to something inanimate. And what I find interesting is you guys have to understand the reason this even happened is actually also very funny. Basically, Prometheus had a brother. So you guys understand, Prometheus was the titan of forethought, meaning he could see ahead of everyone and prophesize things. As a result, he always thought things with careful consideration. But he also had a brother that was the
Yes.
opposite. And this guy,
Oh, yes.
both of them were assigned by Zeus to create mankind or create beings to inhabit the
Hmm.
earth. And basically his Prometheus and his brother had the resources to create this new creature, right? To rule over
Right.
the others.
Right.
And the brother carelessly just threw all the good stuff to random
Oh, yes.
animals. And then now
Right.
and then he came to Prometheus crying, saying, "Bro, I fucked up. What do I do?" And then he's like, "All
And
right, chill, bro. I'll figure something out." And then
I figured some
Prometheus,
out. But
yeah,
Prometheus was always kind
he
of
stole the
patching up the
fire, bro.
mistakes of, you're right. He was
Yeah,
he stole the
he
fire. We'll get
stole
to yes.
no, he stole
No,
the
no.
primordial fire
He
to make
climbed,
mankind, yeah,
right.
made them look like
Mount,
the gods. They walk
right.
upright and they're highly intelligent. They're obsessed with with just figuring out things, and it's like they have this hunger for more knowledge And because of that hunger, they become powerful enough that even gods feel threatened by them, as we see Greek mythology
Absolutely.
progress.
And Zeus was furious at Prometheus, right? Because all of
Hmm.
a sudden he would see amongst the beasts, like men hunting the beasts and kind of creating their own shelters and everything. And but the thing about Prometheus was like, okay, I've created man, but he still lives in darkness. So what he does, he basically climbs Mount Olympus, right? And steals the fire of Mount Olympus and kind of gifts it to men. And at this point, Zeus is about to freak out, and he asks Prometheus to kind of step back from his sins and to make him an offering, right? And so Prometheus said, yeah, let them, because his loyalty was to men. He offered Zeus two types of meat. So 2 plates of meat, basically. This is very interesting to calm down his anger. He said, all right, this is an offering that we give to you from men, so to show you that they are humble and they deserve to live. And I'm not sure what to think of this. Like, so he gives him this offering, and so one offering looks like the stomach of a bull, but underneath there was like very juicy, beautiful stuff to eat, like the best parts of the meat. And then the other plate was it looked like juicy, kind of fat parts of the meat, but
It
actually
was leg
underneath
meat, I think.
right, leg
Yeah.
meat, exactly. And but
It was like
underneath it was
leg meat, yeah. Mhm.
like a nice tender piece, but underneath there were
It had
just
fat.
bones, right? It was like,
Bone and fat, and
and it was just
Zeus got
exactly like, "Bleh."
yeah.
And so Zeus, of course, was blinded by the nice looking meat, and so he took the plate that actually was a bad bait. And when he found out, he was so furious that he took away the fire from mankind and punished them and revoked the fire. And of course, fire is also, it stands for the consciousness of mankind. They were living like beasts with fire. All of a sudden, they had consciousness, they had space, they could see, they were making inventions, they were thriving, right? They were living in abundance. And but Prometheus was of other opinion, and so he again, stole the fire and brought it back. And this time, the second punishment of Zeus was way worse, because he went to his brother Hephaestus and he told him, "Create the ultimate suffering. Create the ultimate suffering." And so Hephaestus shaped the first woman and called her, and Hermes gave her the name Pandora, because the
They
first woman
like
had
to
right.
no, sorry, I just want to say they really like to do this. People
Yes.
forget, like, why is this story so going in this way? Why are they blaming it all on a woman? And it's because in that time period, unfortunately, people thought that
Mhm.
women were considered. People back then didn't think of women as we think of women now, and I don't mean like
Right.
in the way you think. They considered women to be lesser versions of men. So to them,
Right.
women were men, just lesser, because they didn't have the body parts that a real man had, right?
Mhm.
So this is yes, that's why women are a mystery. Yes,
It
TV.
is. It is. It is.
But
It
the
is.
idea is that
Mm.
women also this story is made as a way to set women apart as well, which is that unlike uh men who kind of follow the rules, you got to understand, before uh Pandora, there were no women. It was literally just dudes. Now
Dudes.
you can ask the questions like, well, how the
Planet Earth.
heck did they
Yeah.
expand or whatever? And all I can say is, I don't know, probably somebody started cloning them. I don't know. Okay. That's just me
Mhm.
going off the rails there. But she was considered to be the first woman, and she was given so many positive attributes from all the gods, but
Right. She
she did
received
not
from
realize.
Aphrodite.
Yeah.
She received beauty, grace, and emotion
Mhm.
from Zeus. Quite interestingly, she received insatiable curiosity. And from Hermes, she got the ability of speech. So imagine, man is only able to speak through a woman. So because of the emotion, she became able to communicate. And she gave her also the name
Mhm.
Pandora, which means translated pretty much all gifts, because she received many gifts from the gods in order to animate her body. So again, we have this Frankenstein type of story where we have a container that gets filled with information and different life, and that container then becomes a human being, something like an organic human conscious being.
Mhm. Yeah,
Pandora, like
with yeah.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say because I just now remembered the name of Prometheus's brother because it's actually connected to Pandora.
Yeah,
It's Epimetheus. So Epimetheus,
Epimetheus.
yeah. So Epimetheus is very interesting that they marry her off to Epimetheus because I told you he is a god. He's like a god of carelessness. Okay, and so it was
It's a
very
test.
convenient. Yeah,
It's a
yeah, yeah.
test,
But
probably a test, right?
it's a test, and so he marries her. They fall madly in love, but as we all know, Zeus presents her with that big shiny box, and for ages, for a long time, she's able to keep her composure and ignore the box. But one
Mhm.
day, that insatiable curiosity she got from Zeus,
Mm.
of course.
Mm.
Oh man,
Oh
that screwed
man,
everyone so hard. Like, this is like, oh God, oh God, oh man. Like
right.
that kind of bad
And
time.
again, like Dragon Slayer said beforehand, like he was the god, he was the titan of foresight. So Prometheus warned his brother Epimetheus to not open up, of course, the box and not look inside. And but at a certain point, Pandora herself was so curious about what was stored in there. Just a little thing. Hephaestus, the brother who shaped the first woman. I mean, according to which tale you're reading, but many tales tell us that the first woman was created in Mount Etna, which is the volcano on Sicily. So the first woman comes from Sicily and not Africa in Greek mythology, which is really interesting. And also the Gorgons, the Medusa, was to believe to live in Western Sicily. And Aeneas, who fled from Troy, landed in Sicily, and through, Lord and behold, through an underground connection, through a tunnel underneath the Ionian Sea, he came to terra firma. He wandered to terra firma, to Rome, and co-founded the new empire of Rome. So Sicily, also back in Greek mythology, was a very, very important factor, a very important point of history.
It's so central too to the Mediterranean when you think about
Yes.
it. Like the only place more central than that would be um just the island of Crete, you know?
Probably Crete. Yes,
Yeah,
Crete and
Crete
Sicily
would be
had
so
were.
central.
Yes, yeah.
Mhm,
Also, the Minoan culture that was born on Crete was
mhm,
absolutely influential, especially for the eastern part of the Mediterranean.
mhm.
But very interesting. Inside of Pandora's box was all evil, right? All all bad stuff. But the only thing that was left in there after the box unfortunately was opened, right, and everything escaped, like Ghostbusters, right? When the container gets busted, all ghosts escape, but one ghost stayed in there, and that was hope. So humanity had no hope. And all of a sudden we are emerging, we are, kind of migrating from the golden age where we had immortality, where we had abundance, where we had, long life and a healthy society, lush nature and tranquility. We are wandering into the Bronze Age, where war starts, where there is no hope, where people are getting sick, where they have hunger, where there is death. And then we migrate in the Silver Age. Some call it the Steel Age, but it's Homer calls it the Silver Age, where
Mhm.
people are becoming more and more vicious and more cruel and more arrogant. And so Zeus sees all this, and he's of course angry and appalled about how humanity kind of evolved, even though he's responsible for that shit because he created that thing,
Yeah.
right? So he's
He's so mad
basically
about what
he's
he
so
knew was gonna happen.
Like, this is where we definitely deviate from Silmarillion, because
Yeah,
Iluvatar was understanding that everything is part of the scheme of the universe. Not so
yeah.
Zeus, right? Zeus
No,
again is
Zeus
way
was
more
like,
worldly.
"Oh,
Oh man, ah,
it's like, what? They
what?
became terrible people.
Why they're
They're killing each
fighting?
other."
No shit! You created literally a woman that was seducing them into mayhem and confusion and chaos, right? Kind of
You
ordering
made
your
this.
brother. You called your brother. You said, "Hey, create ultimate suffering for humankind." I mean, this is what you called upon.
Please.
Please now, and all of
I
a
need
sudden,
to get back
I'm
at
appalled.
Prometheus. I
Right.
need to
So
get back at Bro, it's like that kid who like goes through a bunch of loops, like a bunch of hoops, just to get
yes,
back at the smart kid. Prometheus is the smart kid, everyone. He knew what was going to happen, but he had no choice but to go along with it. And then for all his trouble, he gets chained up. Think about that. He gets chained up after he stole the fire the second
yes,
time.
right.
And
At the second time,
that
you get
happened after though. That happened after some
yeah.
time
No, after
because
the second time, yeah, he gets chained up to the Caucasus, and this is very interesting. And an eagle, which is Zeus himself, of course, because the eagle is the sign of Zeus. And funny enough, the eagle is still today the sign of authority, of power, and of the government, right? So nothing has changed since for 3,000 years now. But there is this eagle that picks pieces of his liver, right? And so there is this blood pool, that, because of course that would of the wound would close, him being immortal, he couldn't die, but there was
Mhm,
always some blood running down from his liver, and there was this
mhm.
pool of blood, right? Because he was chained to this to the mountain, and down there
Yeah.
the river was creating this pool of blood, and this is where we get the term Liverpool. And there is a famous soccer
Oh,
club, right? And if you look at the logo of the soccer club, you see this phoenix, eagle-like, mythological Gryffindor type of creature that is eating a piece of a heart, and then you see, there is this drop of blood coming down, and this is the Liverpool of
oh
Prometheus.
yeah. Yeah, you're right. Oh wow. That I never thought about that, but you're right. And I do want to mention this which is find it very funny. So, after she opens the box, she and
Right.
Epimetheus, they have they have some kids, but one of them was the
Pyrrha.
notable one anyway. No, was Pyrrha, their
Pyrrha, yeah.
daughter, and she and what was the name of that man? You had him in. You showed his name
De-
like in the center.
Deucalion. Deucalion was the name
Deucalion
of
or Deucalus? I
Deucalion.
forget.
Deucalion
Du-
is Deucalion.
oh, okay, Deucalion. So Deucalion and Pyrrha are like the. If you want to use biblical references,
Mhm.
Pandora and Pandora and Epimetheus were the equivalents of Methuselah and his wife,
Mhm.
and in
Interesting.
this case, yeah, and Deucalion and Pyrrha in this case are Noah and his wife, and
Yes.
well, in that case, it's
Yes.
Noah's wife and his children, but in this case, it's just this couple, and in all ancient myths, this is repeated constantly, which is that
It's
there's always
constantly,
two, yeah, two
and we
couple. There's always a couple that survives and gets warned.
absolutely. And we
Mhm.
have in every ancient myth on this planet, right? There are a couple of things that are always reoccurring in every ancient myth on this planet, no matter where you go, whether it's Eastern Island, whether you go into the Far Eastern Oriental tales, whether you go into Norse mythology, Icelandic mythology, you will always see a great flood happening, right? And so here again, Zeus being so mad at his own creation, basically being mad at himself, nonetheless, he decides to punish all mankind and to clean the surface of Earth, because it was kind of infested by the war, by hunger, by famine, by sickness that all of a sudden kind of started by opening up Pandora's box. And so he ordered his brother Poseidon to unleash, a terrible flood and a terrible earthquake. And the Great Flood was absolutely annihilating planet Earth. The waves There were tallest mountains, and the wind and rain covered everything until water was all the eye could see. This is basically how they describe it in Greek mythology. All the eye could
Mhm.
see was water, the great
And
flood.
it's crazy because if you look at the ancient Native American myths, they say there were
Mhm,
like 4 ages prior to this one, and each age ended in some sort of um catastrophe, natural catastrophe that was signified by an element, right? And one
mhm,
of them, the last one, according to them, to the Olmecs, was by water. Long
mhm,
ago, the world
mhm,
was consumed by water, but some people survived it. They sequestered
mhm,
themselves in underground caves or vaults, and then after
mhm.
centuries, they came out and
Yes.
reestablished civilization once things had calmed down. And so I
And
find
it's
that
funny,
very
we're
fascinating.
finding, yeah, and we're
Yeah.
finding these caves and these tunnel systems and these cavities all over the place. Even funnier and intriguing, and also a bit concerning. And like
Oh yeah.
these tunnel systems exist. Yeah, we find more and more. The more we excavate, we find this presence beneath our surface of hundreds of kilometers of systems that were created to secure yourself from from what was going on the surface. Probably, in
Mhm.
Cappadocia we have like entire cities, kind of cut out of the rock internally, and we're talking about 40-50 meters of depth, perfectly
Yeah.
excavated with wells and fountains
Mhm.
and doors and sealing doors and mechanisms that could
That's
seal
not a
yourself
few
up.
thousand years old, bro. I'm sorry. Like,
No, no,
I
no,
still
don't
don't
worry.
believe them when they say that.
I Yeah, it's
Yeah,
crazy to believe that.
it's
Absolutely.
far older. It's just that the last
Yes.
time it was used on recorded
Yes.
history was a couple of
Yes.
thousand years, and then over the course of that period, a
No, no,
few
you're right.
times, but it's way much older.
It's way
You can
much
tell
older,
by the
and you
stonework.
yeah, but you can tell by the stonework. I totally agree. Also, what you can find beneath Naples is 100 meters under the street surface, on the street level, and they claim this has been built in the 17th century. That's absolutely impossible. If you look at these structures, these aqueducts, they are, like I said again, they are excavated, and so the engineering and the craftsmanship that go into kind of, also with dependency that always has to reflect a certain type of millimetrical, right, descendants, so the water would always flow, always stay in motion. We're talking about a way
Mhm.
of engineering that is unknown today. So if it would be 17th century, where are the copies? Where are the building protocols? Where are the papers that show us like what they thought on how to construct this? There is no
Yeah.
construction log. Even also, like, we have the same mystery with all these world fairs, right? We have these huge world fairs that all
Mhm.
burned down, right? And gigantic proportions, incredible buildings all over the place. Who constructed those buildings? They claim, yeah, people then, yeah, settlers in the 18th century,
Yeah.
non-educated, non-academical, just coming out of civil
Uh-huh.
war. Let's build gigantic, like, world fairs and world expositions with giant train tracks
Mhm.
and all sorts of construction that till today are still unmatched and unparalleled in volume and size. So definitely there was something
Yeah,
going on that we
let's
can't
just
really describe.
ignore the yeah, but let's also just ignore the hundreds of pyramids in China. Like, we're talking
Yes,
gigantic pyramids buried
gigantic.
under
Yes,
dirt and grass. Like, you can actually
right.
see them stick out of the ground. Like, it's not you can see them
Yes,
stick out to the point where you can tell, hey, that's man made. That's not a hill. That thing is is too exact of a measurement.
right, right. Like,
And
you can
they're all
clearly see.
they're all coming out because it's obvious enough. Whoever it was that made those pyramids was quite old, very old civilization. Probably something happened to them, and they passed the story on, and somehow, somewhere in between, it became legend. And you know
Mhm.
how it goes with legends. There's
Right.
always some truth in it, but
Yes.
sometimes what happens is the truth gets changed a lot, or repurposed to where we now get mythology. You can think
No,
of
abs
gods as this, or like, people always
one
think, oh, with gods, it's always aliens, but in my opinion, I never thought of it like that. I always thought maybe instead of aliens, it was actually just a group of highly advanced human beings.
Yeah, there could
Because
be.
let's be
I mean,
honest, human beings are
yes,
quite good at what they do. It doesn't take us
yeah,
that long
right,
to develop. If
right.
we have like a century or two, we develop quite fast.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we are really fucking smart, and this is also why I don't accept this narrative that we are just destructive and we're just an infection for this planet and a virus. Like, look at the stuff that we have created in the last 150 years. Have we created also a lot of pollution, a lot of noise, and a lot of unnecessary steel that doesn't get used? Of course, yes, but at the same time, guys, if the calculations are really correct that NASA is presenting us, this planet is like 4.7 billion years old. We're a tiny fraction of a sand corn old, and nonetheless, we have constructed like a health system that works. We have wealth like it has never there before. It has never occurred to mankind that basically everywhere on planet Earth we can give water, we can give electricity, we can give shelter to people. This is not something. I mean, we're 8 billion people. What do you expect? Of course we are not perfect. Of course we're running into problems and everything. But if you look at humankind, it's whether that bad and whether that virus that everybody likes to tell us just to depopulate us, to have a great excuse to do that. No, we're actually quite good at what we do. We need a bit more patience, and we need to be a bit more positive about what we can achieve, because we are masters, we are craftsmen. We have incredible skills, and if you give us time and the right tools, we can construct nearly everything.
No, yeah.
So
I mean, that's
the Great Flood covered
mm,
everything except Mount Parnassus, right? And here Deucalion and Pyrrha, they with their little skiff, I designed a bit of a bigger ship, but it was actually a little boat. They somehow managed to get on top of Mount Parnassus. That was the only peak that was not covered in water. And similar to Noah, how he was warned by God, Deucalion and Pyrrha were warned by Prometheus about the incoming flood, because of course the immortal Titan Prometheus had a clear vision, right? Being the god of foresight, what Zeus wanted to do, and so he warned his child and the daughter of Pyrrha to take countermeasures. And so they built this ship, they landed on Mount Parnassus, and after the flood was kind of retrieving, after, I think it was, I'm not sure, some tales tell of 10 days, some others say 9 days, some others say 40 days of flood. But
yeah.
after the flood was gone, they again asked the Titan Themis, the first wife of Zeus, the Titan of justice and law, what to do now, since they were alone, since there was no human being, because the flood literally, killed and washed away
Yeah.
everybody.
And
And
they
so the
wouldn't have been
Titan,
able to oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, 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 no. The Titan just
No.
told Pyrrha and Deucalion, take stones and throw them, walk around Mount Parnassus and take stones and throw them, behind your shoulders. And so when Pyrrha was doing that, women were born, and Deucalion did the same thing, and man was born out of his stones, which is interesting. Again,
Mhm.
again, we have the philosopher's stone, which is the bearer of life.
Mhm. No, I always find it fascinating because they literally this is what they were told to do, because they said, "Look, we're alone. Yeah, we can procreate, but it won't be enough. Like, we can only inbreed for so long before it
Yes.
all goes to
Yeah.
crap."
Yeah.
And then they were like, "Yeah, they got a point.
Yeah.
Throw some stones. Throw some stones. You'll have more people then." And then they're like, "Okay." And lo and behold, here we are.
And here we are. Of course, the stone again is like, it's also, we have the stone everywhere, right? We have the Kaaba and Mecca. We have the stone of the philosopher's stone, the stone of alchemy, the stone of Thoth. The stone is somehow the stone of Mithra, right? Francis of Assisi had his visions under a stone. And then in today's entertainment, we have touchstone pictures or Paramount pictures or DreamWorks pictures. We have Spielberg. We have all these stones, all these names and these references to rocks. Of course, the Christian church is called, Peter, you be my rock on which I will build my church. So Peter is the stone. Peter is the stone. Petra means stone. This is why the ancient holy city was called Petra. It just literally means stone. So there is something about the combination of stone, of what you said also, crystals maybe, and clay, right? The electrification of clay, that somehow this unorganic matter could be turned into something organic, into something with even consciousness, which is crazy to think. But somehow these concepts were not alien to the ancient civilizations that, you know, populated this planet.
Yeah, no, it's because with stone, when you think about it, stone is enduring. Stone
Hmm.
is
Hmm.
in a way immortal because it can endure a lot of punishment, like the physical bodies of the gods, and still retain its relative shape. You don't need
Hmm.
to do much with it other than some general maintenance. And if a catastrophe does happen, sure, maybe not the entire structure will survive, but a good portion will. It will leave a record.
Right.
That, and that's the thing. That's why a lot of cultures were obsessed about stone, because
Hmm.
stone, it allows you to leave something behind for others to
Hmm.
see even long after you're gone. That is why a lot of the buildings like the Great Pyramid of Giza, the Parthenon,
Hmm.
Lord, the even the well, no, not any longer,
Well,
but
the
I was gonna say
Jupiter
the,
temple of Baalbek, I
yeah,
mean, it's
exactly.
endless.
All stone temples, they
All
literally
stone
are the
temple.
reason that we even know this myth, these cultures existed. It's
I mean, the
because of their legacy of stone that we even remember them.
stone, right? It's
Yeah.
it's a stone that keeps the memory alive, right? Because it doesn't change, like you said, the shape. It stays in the same dimension, right? These very hard materials, they will forever express their principle, and is a physical representation of a celestial principle. If you look at the pyramid, that's the universal mount. That's the celestial mountain inside of us, but also now physically perceivable. And you can even walk into that thing and get the energy from that thing. But that's why, like you were rightfully saying, these ancient cultures believe in the translation of that celestial aspect into a physical matter, into a physical shape. And these temples, because we are talking about temples all the time, these temples were, of course, representative of the gods, that were representing an aspect, an adjective, a verb,
Mhm.
a way of thinking, a way of living also.
Oh, and here's the best part that a lot of people don't know. A lot of these temples, they were built on
Hmm.
top of they were built on top of specific spots that
Yes.
scientists have done measurements of, like the Earth's electromagnetic field. All the
Right.
places that you see temples or pyramids located, they were built on top of, you could say, focal points where
Focal point.
yeah, where
Yes.
there's higher electromagnetic energy surging from
if
the
you
earth. So
if
so
you
it has like
imagine,
a rel yeah.
right. No,
Mhm.
no. If you imagine the Earth like being surrounded by a shield that is composed out of a grid with different, networks connecting in bigger knots. The bigger knots, the high energy volume. Exactly there, we can find all these amazing Gothic churches where underneath we have even older burial sites and holy sites. We can find the pyramids. We can find Angkor Wat. We can find, Salisbury Hill. We can find the Serpent Mound in Ohio. Also, all these different, energetically very important holy sites are always kind of built on those crossroad points, on those vector points where many energetic lines would somehow connect, the so-called ley lines, if you want to call them so. But there's definitely an energetic grid, around planet Earth, and that grid has, of course, like, bigger knots, and on top of that knot, you can find a temple, you can find a stone building, you can find a monument, or like a natural occurrence that is somehow peculiar and special. Very interesting.
No, yeah, I always find it fascinating how we can make so many connections to
Yes.
other aspects of, like, ancient myth and current day, and when you
Right.
think about it, you just start to to just say, man, there might be
There,
something more
there
to this
might
than I
be
originally
something,
thought. Like
right?
besides the moral lessons, that obviously
Mhm.
are that are obviously embedded in the stories. There's more to that story, and let me tell you, it's going to be very fascinating once we get to talking about the kingdoms that
Yes,
some of these
yes,
demigods established, human
yes.
demigods established, and then how that led to a time where gods were obsessed with humans, and Zeus made so many demigods that at one point
Oh, yes.
he said no, and at one point he said, "You know what? I got the best solution to this problem because y'all are complaining, right? I'm gonna start a big ass war." And that war was the War of Troy, where
A
most
War of Troy.
uh,
Yes,
yeah, where most of the demigods were either killed off
yes.
or they
Which
died
was,
of old age shortly after. And then
yeah,
it
which
all
was very
ended.
handy. Yes.
Yeah. No, and the last hero, the last hero of Greek myth was conveniently a human, just a regular dude, Odysseus. And he
Which
had
is fantastic. Yeah.
yeah, he's like one of the few people that gets a good result after
Eh,
all he's been
yes.
through. It's like one of the few Greek stories where the hero doesn't get screwed in the end.
Well, he gets screwed for
This-
7 years, but then in the end, yeah,
yeah,
he
but he doesn't
finally.
die. He doesn't suffer
No, it's true.
tragedy.
It's
But at
true.
least
It's true.
that everybody
Yes,
else
no,
dies. But
it's true. It's
yeah,
like
but
Zeus engineered this master plan to get rid of a lot of his competitors in a way, right? Because these earthly wars costed a lot of demigods literally their life, right?
no, yeah, and unfortunately, a lot of these demigods never. Some of them were very unstable, and others were just normal. But obviously, they would get used in the power struggles, even if they didn't want to, because they were bound by a sense of honor and duty. And
Yes.
obviously, the Trojan War. If you guys want another cool analogy to the Trojan War, where you see these similarities, um, in the Silmarillion, or if you guys watch the Lord of the Rings movies, that first 5 minute prologue sequence where the elves and men are fighting together to beat Sauron up, uh, that whole gathering in the books, they go into a little bit more detail, but you can allude the War of Troy to the War of the Last Alliance in the Second Age,
Oh
because
yeah, for
in
sure.
both because with Tolkien, he makes it very clear that um, when this war ends, Numenor loses its heroes. Numenor loses uh, the two sons of the great hero Elendil. The
Yeah.
hero Elendil, the king, uh, dies in a duel. The elves lose their kings, their high king, and two other kings. And afterwards, all those kingdoms suffer terrible losses. They are completely degraded. Their glory is gone. Now it's a new age where it's mostly mortals having to deal with the aftermath, with the immortals leaving. And this is very similar to the War of Troy, because after the War of Troy is over, that's when Zeus decrees that no longer will the gods intervene directly like how they used to. Now this
Right.
world will truly belong to man.
To them.
Like as
Right.
if he said, okay, mankind has proven themselves enough. They've endured enough from our bullshit. Let's
Yeah,
just
they're
leave them
valuable.
alone and get the fuck
Right.
out. and,
Right.
and
And
that's what
also,
happened.
and that's exactly what happened. I think he was also sick of all the games and all the, for thousands of years he had to fight and kind of, hide his. There are many incredible stories about his mistresses also, what in terms like what kind of length he went to hide his affairs and all that. But the thing that we're always looking at these principles, and that's also why I called this such an important topic, because it can relate to anything that we have contemporary, right? We have these very very interesting ideas of are you allowed, to kind of go against a certain directive, let's say, in the example of Prometheus, right? To create your own golem, right? To be the inventor of something that will have its own soul and its own life and its own cycle without direct control of authority, right? Is it allowed to create a new organization inside of a bigger organization, and provide that organization with everything from ideas to consciousness, so that organization can thrive for itself? Or should we always leave it under the guidance of a bigger authority that can control everything? Because yes, in the beginning, the creation of man, also because of Zeus' fault, kind of led to chaos, it led to war, it led to famine, to sickness. But in the end, you look at the cycle, right? You create something out of clay, then there is the birth of fire, the illumination, so this thing has spirit. But of course, it makes all the mistakes we all would do, right? And the great flood is the cleansing, right? We have to come clean with our consciousness. We have to come back to our senses. And maybe we start again, right? It's just the two of us. And we're throwing those stones of wisdom behind us to create new life, new ideas, and to create a new society. So in a way, that means that there is no good or bad. Everything happens in a cycle. Everything is an event, and you need to deal with the event, and you will eventually find a solution to that. You will eventually find a niche for your life, for your creation, and create a new universe in that. And that is true and will always be true for any endeavor. Any endeavor in the beginning is super exciting. You steal the fire, you have enlightenment, you have ideas, it's all great. And then, of course, you will have the first setbacks, the first failures. You will need some help. You will retrieve into your Plato's cavern and think about what went wrong. You're mad at yourself. And then you're coming out, right, of that internal war, right, where you opened up Pandora's box. And, the only thing maybe left is hope, right, that this thing will go well or not. And like in Lord of the Rings, like in Greek mythology, but also like in real life, after you come out of your cavern of Plato, after you come out of your mental incubation, where you finally gave order to your ideas, now you are ready to kind of create something new, because you need that maturity. I mean, if there's anything Greek mythology is telling us and teaching us, is that everything needs its own time to mature, to have consistency, to have the right amount of critical mass, so it can thrive for itself and be interesting and be appreciated by its audiences. It will never work the first time. There's always going to be war. There's always going to be like some sort of a cataclysm, some sort of a conflict, some sort of a clash of belief systems and interests also, right? And the gods, like we said in the beginning, there are physical representations of something that is way more emotional. These are verbs. This is us. We have all Hyperion, the Titan, inside of us. We all have the sun inside of us. But we also have Selene inside of us, which is the moon and the glimmering light and the glooming light. So we are melancholic beings sometimes. Sometimes we are a bit in a blue mood, and that's okay. Nothing to be worried of. It's just the second aspect of a bigger consciousness that lives inside of us. But nowadays, people have so much information that they feel like, okay, no, I need to kind of take care of this, right? They look at the details, they look at the stratification, they don't look at the big picture. They don't understand that it's just an aspect. It's not defining their personality, right? Chronos, the time, the decay of things, of course, he's very powerful, but he's only one aspect of the universe. He's only one aspect of what we call life. So yes, we fight against time, we fight against Chronos, like Zeus fought against his father, right? But how did he fight against him? With cunningness, right? His mother hid him, and he came up with an idea, and so he kind of, he ambushed his father. I mean, there are different accounts, but in a way, he came up with wit, with cunningness, with ingenuity to free his siblings, to free his other aspects. And that just resulted in a war, 10 years against the Titans, on which shoulders he first stood. Because in a way, that's also happening to us. When we're coming out of adolescence, adolescents, when we're coming out of puberty, we are fighting against our parents. We are fighting against the shoulders we once stood on, our relatives, our grandfathers, our father, our mother. We have to fight against, the gods that made us in order to have that identity. And yes, that's hard. And there is no way around it. There is no reason to complain or to blame it, to say, oh, this is not fair. It will never be totally fair because life isn't fair. But greatness will wait for those who are willing to climb Mount Olympus and to steal the fire. Exactly like in Lord of the Rings, right? When the guy climbed, to the tower to finally light up one of the torches so all of the kingdoms would finally communicate, right? It's
Mhm.
always that climb that we have to make in life.
No, yeah, it's like that. I think everything does need growth, no matter no matter what happens. It's obvious enough that without some sort of difficulty or struggle, we cannot grow as an individual. I say this, and so,
Hmm.
like you said, it's a recurring theme in Greek mythology, and all I can hope is that from what you can learn out of Greek mythology is you need struggle or difficulty in order to growth. However, the degree of what that difficulty is going to be is up to you. You can
Hmm.
choose to make the struggle, or you can choose to make the lesson harder than it
Hmm.
should be. At the end of the
Hmm.
day, the humans are presented with free will in all these stories. There are some things that we can't avoid that are going to happen in our lives that we have to endure in order to grow as individuals. But how that is going to affect us, or the severity of it, that's determined by us specifically. And all these stories are trying to tell us is that exact lesson. You know, grow, grow in wisdom, but do not give in to arrogance, and learn to
Hmm.
understand two things: there will always be inevitabilities that you cannot avoid. Face them with courage and take away the fear. And for the rest, that is up to you. You are the maker of your own individual story. Okay. But
Hmm.
be wise enough to know that you are not the main character.
Hmm.
Everyone is, just in different capacities. You know,
Yeah,
that's how
yeah,
I see it anyway.
yeah, no, absolutely. That's such a beautiful thought. And today we have Greek mythology present in many corporate logos, right? Think of the pyramid itself, or the eye and the pyramid, right? This geometrical primordial shape of the Trinity that is present in so many designs and so many patterns. We have Olympus itself, of course. It's a camera brand. We have Nike, which is the goddess of it. It's actually the idol of Athena, right? Nike is actually the idol of the goddess of wisdom and war. And sometimes she carries an owl. Sometimes it is Nike, the goddess of victory. um, we have many brands that are using these ideas, like the Medusa that could turn people into stone just by looking at them, right? Where we have Versace, but many patterns, ornamentations of these multinational brands are carrying still the insignia of the Greek mythology, of the ancient Greek stories. If you think of the bull, the importance of the bull in today's logo, right? Where
Mhm.
we have the bull also being, the representative of the stock market that is flourishing. The bull market means that people are making
Yeah.
money, and
Yeah.
the word
Fertility. Yeah.
fertility.
Yeah.
Actually, in
Vigor.
ancient times, the tyrannus, like a tyrant today, has a negative connotation, but back in the days, it just means you are a tyrannus. So you are a ruler, strong as a bull. That meant that you had both like 4 feet, like rooted into the ground, very hard to face. That was actually a
Mhm.
positive thing.
Yeah, you
And
were
now,
headstrong, and you were headstrong in your beliefs. That's quite
exactly.
interesting scripture. I
Headstrong
love
in
it.
your belief is absolutely that, right? And so a
Yeah.
lot of these principles, if you think of the reoccurring themes, right? The father that eats the son because he's jealous of the son's future success, and the son that again has to kill his parents or kill his idols, right? Or kind of rebel against his roots in order to finally succeed and finally take his seat as the king, right? And taking his throne. So these psychological effects on us when we're growing up, and how we perceive society, and also how we what we consume and what we do, a lot of the stuff can be traced back to these ancient accounts. And I hope you guys out there from the creative community enjoyed today's show, because it was such a pleasure, first of all, to have one of the overlord bigots here on the channel, Dragon Slayer Commentary, who is
You're
also
one too. Don't deny it.
yes, who is also a brother in art, right? We have so many different things where we share the same ideas, where we have the same passion, same interests. And definitely, if you guys like this show today, we're definitely gonna jump into a new episode where we're gonna highlight the world of the heroes, where we're going to talk about the stories of the heroes, where we're probably also going to find some more tangible metaphors that we can translate to storytelling in today's world. Anything you'd like to add or to say?
No, I really just want to say, hey, look at that, Ryan showed up.
Yeah.
He apparently, you came a little bit near the end, bro, but I understand. He was doing his live stream too at the same time, apparently. I had no idea. That was crazy. But dude, trust me, watch the replay. I think gonna have a great time, because this talk about Greek mythology, it's amazing. I always enjoy hanging out with Coach and just talking with him about, topics that, sure, I know it can lead into long ass monologues, but that's what we do. Okay? We have to talk about it. Okay, it's meeting. It's just who we are, bro. And I always love hanging out with Coach on these streams. It's an amazing experience. You get to see the perspectives of mythology from in the eyes of someone that while he's older than me, I consider him to be a brother, because he is just we just vibe well with everything regarding mythology and art, And guys, come on, sub to this channel already. Share this video with your friends. And you know what? If your friend is an aspiring actor, how about you show them Coach's little course? Have them sign up even. They'll become good actors. Like they'll be the type that'll give Disney the middle finger if they try to put any bullshit diversity crap on their scripts.
Oh, yes,
just
sir.
Saying. You're helping humankind by getting him on his program. You are doing your duty. But
thanks for the shout out. Yes, for sure.
Yeah. But really, guys, it was an amazing time. As for me, because I know some of you may wonder where you can check me out. Literally, just type in the name that you see on like right under my profile picture, Dragon Slayer Commentaries. If you click it, you should be able to find my channel right away, because I am the only crazy bastard that has a dragon avatar with hoodie armor. Okay, only one. It's only one stinking Dragon Slayer Commentaries, and that's me. And also, I want to make a quick little announcement, because I'm quite excited about this. A few minutes before the show started, I actually released my Disney Echo Show review, and it should be live right about now. Now, YouTube's little notification system, it kind of hates me, because I'm getting comments from my subs saying that they're getting notifications like weeks after I may release a video. And so I would appreciate if you just check out my channel to just watch that review, because I gotta say I'm quite proud of that one, because that show absolutely sucked and it deserved everything I said about it. Okay, it's highly disrespectful to Native Americans, and if you are one, it should be your duty to watch it, because you need to tell your Native American friends as well to get mad at this shit, because it's bad. But look, that's it for me. Once again, love y'all. thank you so much for your time, Chad, and thank you so much for this gracious host, coach. Thank you so much, man. Love the show.
Of course, of course. Thank you so much for this wonderful outro. Creative community, thank you so much. Next open doodle class, it's this Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's gonna be a great one. Hopefully, I have a guest. It looks like I can get him on the show. We will talk about the mental aspect, a little bit of visualization, manifestation, the law of all these beautiful things that we attract in life, to get to a bit more of a spiritual aspect, right? We can't always talk about the nitty gritty and information, all that. Sometimes we need to look at it a bit more holistically. We're going to do that next Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Of course, you can still register for the free masterclass also February 17th. And if you need to work on something, your show reel, your self-tape, your next monologue, or you just like to get a foot into the door of entertainment industry, join me on readytoperform.com. Join the new courses, send me a free trial session request. I will answer it right away. And then we get down to business and see if we, like Dragon Slayer said, cannot do something amazing, right, with your talents. The time scales, Howdy. Howdy, back to you. Love the chat as well. Thank you so much, Ryan, for being here, to the chat, to the Instagram crowd, to the Facebook community. Thank you all. It's been a blast. Guys, this has been just the first stream. I'm sure Dragon Slayer commentary is gonna come back also for the hero age, where we're gonna look at completely different stories. It's gonna be a lot of fun as well. Otherwise, catch us both arguing, fighting, discussing, loving each other dearly every Saturday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturday Night Hypnosis on Hypnotic's YouTube channel. I'm out for today. You're full of knowledge now, and hopefully you're ready to perform.